most challenging thing for me during COVID-19 is student interaction, because I have not made any new friends this year at all, because I've not been given the opportunity to meet anyone new, because there is no time or place for students to talk to each other freely.
Going into this school year, 2020 to 2021, what's been challenging is the school system's trying to send us back and feeling like we as teachers, as well as the students' health, are being taken for granted. Taking it out of context of being health related, when it comes to students actually doing their work, we have a low attendance rate. So we are basically not able to give every student the ability to learn the skills and utilize agency for their education. So that has been really tough for teachers. So for me, I just feel like at this point right now, students are not getting the adequate educational support that they need, especially students with any IEPs or 504 plans.
The expectations for students and families during remote learning has been stressful and difficult for everyone. But I have found that the level of empathy for students and families who work low-wage jobs, who can't work from home to ensure that their kids are attending online classes, who can't assist their kids with homework because they are still working outside the home, it only confirms that we are not all starting from the same place. There are so many barriers to access that many people do not see or experience because of their privilege.
To me, the hardest thing about COVID-19 in schools has been that we've all been required to go back into the buildings without a standard to keep our students and our staff safe. It's very difficult to teach and learn when people's basic needs aren't being met. We have students whose households are struggling to pay rent. We have students whose households are struggling to provide food. It's very difficult to expect children to be able to learn if their basic needs aren't being met.
Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Raising a Village was full throttle in 3 locations, 2 affordable housing communities, and 1 Title I school, high school in fact, in Ward 7, Northeast Washington, D.C. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we had to quickly readjust our services to being online. During the COVID-19 pandemic, at least from March through June, we were only able to serve 40% of our students. Now, some of you might think, well, 40% isn't bad, but as a nonprofit that wants to see all children succeed, 40% wasn't enough. Another thing that we've been able to do, my staff and I, is to create best practices on how to engage with students more deeply, even in this virtual world. When we were in person, we considered the Driven to Succeed program what we call wraparound services, which means when we were in a school, we just didn't provide academic interventions, but we also provided field trips, healthy snack programs, and mentoring activities baked and cooked in our services. However, we're online, so we can't do field trips anymore, and we can't necessarily provide the same healthy snack program that we did before. But despite all that, we've been able to work with schools in providing a hygiene kit drive and a school supply drive. We've been able to create virtual trick-or-treat and costume contests for our affordable housing communities. And we've been able to create best practices and classroom norms on how to engage with students deeply and effectively, even in the virtual space.
COVID has helped me to imagine a future of education that incorporates our social and emotional learning. I can now see that the education of our pre-pandemic life was kept in a box, and there is much more for us to learn and to try and to challenge ourselves with. These students are teaching us how to be adaptable and caring risk takers if we would just stop long enough to listen.
COVID-19 has brought up lots of questions about the role of privacy and the role of equity in education, and it makes me hopeful about the ways in which we can try and address these issues, hopefully when we're back in person. So it's incredibly important that we think about these questions now and that we address them in the future so that we can, if something like this ever happens again, we can make it run a lot more smoothly for the students who need it.